Before I start, I just want to say that most of this video will be spoiler free. The first 20 minutes, in fact, will be spoiler free. I will even put in the description the part where I actually start to spoil stuff. When it gets to that part, please shut it off if you did not play it. If you did play it and just want to hear what I think of the ending, which is the main thing I'll be spoiling, then skip to that part. I mean, don't skip that part. You know, when you get to that part, enjoy. So, anyway, without further ado, enjoy the video.
Time to get you out of here.
What am I? What am I? He's coming. You've got to go.
Gotta get out of here!
Hey, what's up my peeps, and welcome to another video. And actually, talking about peeps, today is Easter, so happy Easter to everybody out there. And I have an Easter present for everybody. I have another review for one of the most anticipated video games of all time, and that is Bioshock Infinite. Now, if you do not know, I actually reviewed this yesterday in a regular review. Sure, it was a little bit long, but you know, it was still regular. I started off with story, sound, then I did graphics and gameplay, and I wrapped it up. Typical review. But seeing that this was a game that I was looking forward to for years, it felt like way longer than like 2, maybe 3 years. It felt like way longer than that. But I've been waiting for this game, so what I decided to do was I was actually going to do a in-depth review where I just sit here and talk about some of the stuff I missed, or talk more about the stuff I already talked about in the review, and so on. So you know what? Let's get straight into it, because Bioshock Infinite was a game that did not disappoint. The story is the thing I was really looking forward to in this game, because I wanted a game that had characters I really cared about, that had a great chemistry, but I didn't want it to be a typical, I don't know, Uncharted adventure where a bunch of silly things happen, things blew up all the time, there's a romance or something. I didn't want that. I wanted a game that had a lot of political messages in the background, which it definitely did. A lot of racism, which, yeah, there was a lot of that. Not that I wanted racism, like, hell yeah, I love racism. No, I just wanted something more not video game-ish, because we don't get many games where there's a bunch of racist stuff going on. But we got all that political stuff. We had all that background story from all the audio logs that you could collect. But you also still got those two main characters, Booker DeWitt and Elizabeth, which we don't know her last name. And the chemistry between these two characters is just so good, and so not typical too, because in a typical relationship in a game between two main characters, it usually goes like this. They don't trust each other at first, or maybe they already knew each other, but there was something that complicated that relationship and they don't really like each other at first, or whatever. Just, they didn't really care for each other at first. Or maybe they do, and then maybe something happens during the game. I don't know. But you know, it starts off as they don't care about each other, and then later on in the game, they start to earn their trust back, each other's trust back, and at the end, they start caring for each other again. This game really doesn't do that, and I love it, because at first, when you meet Elizabeth, it's a little shaky. She doesn't really know who you are, but then she quickly earns, you quickly earn her trust, and she does like you. And then there's a part where you lie to her. There's actually a part before that where you kill someone, and she's like, oh god, this guy's a maniac, she's gonna run away from you, and you have to catch her, of course, and earn her trust back. And there's also a part right after that where you lie to her, and she's heartbroken, she's crying, but she attacks you and she leaves, because you know, first you killed people and now you're lying to her. How is she going to trust you? You earn her trust back again, but then it's shaky after that, where before she was really cheerful and stuff. She's still cheerful at times, but for the most part she's a little bit more sullen. She's like, okay, I know what kind of man you are. I'm not going to be all cheerful and stuff with you. I'm going to be serious now, and I love that. And I did mention this in the actual review, but Booker DeWitt is actually a really damn good character. There's some reviews that have said this, and I do kind of agree, and this is probably my only real criticism of the game. Not even that big, though, because they do a good job of kind of negating this at points. But you don't know what his expression is whenever Elizabeth is saying something, because when Booker responds, sometimes he just goes, huh, or hmm, and you don't know what his expression is, and you can't tell what he's thinking sometimes because he's not saying anything, because Elizabeth's saying something really dramatic, and you don't know what he's thinking because you can't see his face. You can with Elizabeth because her expression is so well done that you can tell what she's thinking. Booker you can't, because you're always in that first person mode. Now, the reason why I say it's not a big issue is because the writing is so good for Booker, and Troy Baker does an amazing job of voicing this character. Whenever he does talk and responds to Elizabeth, I can tell what he's thinking because he doesn't even need to say it like, oh, I'm angry. No, you can tell by his tone. Like, you can tell he's angry at times. You can tell he's a little sympathetic to the girl, even though he just wants to get, he wants to pay his debt so these guys can stop chasing after him. But he's sympathetic. He knows that this girl is she's a human being, and he does care for her. But he still wants to get, he's still looking out for himself pretty much. But you can tell that through his voice, and I have to give credit to Troy Baker and the writing for that. And like I keep saying, Elizabeth as a character is just probably one of the most likable female characters in a game because she isn't that typical heroine that is always in trouble. I mean, it starts off kind of like that movie Tangled, where she's in a tower. When she comes out, she just wants to go out and have a good time because she's never been outside before. She wants to go dance and all that. It's kind of like that movie Tangled in a way, which, by the way, I like that movie. So yeah. Anyway. Elizabeth is a great character here. She really is. And what I actually really liked about her is that the same reason why I liked Lara Croft or whatever from Tomb Raider a couple weeks ago is that at the beginning, Lara is, she's a tough chick, but she's not, a killer. But at a point she becomes a killer, and at the end she becomes a killing machine. She's like, she doesn't even flinch whenever she kills an animal or a human being. She doesn't care. She can climb, she can take damage. She's just tough. And she's kind of like Elizabeth in this game, or Elizabeth is kind of like her, or vice versa, whatever. Because at first, Elizabeth, she's like that Disney princess. She's always having fun, cheerful, and all that. But then there's a couple parts where she sees death, and she sees, Booker can be a real scumbag at times, and she gets a taste of what real life is. It's not always dancing and happiness, and she becomes a little bit more tougher, and I really like that. And I do have to give huge kudos to the voice actress here, again, Courtney Draper, who I don't know if I read this right, but she's supposed to be quitting acting, which I do not know why. She should continue being an actress. I know it's probably tough or whatever, but you are amazing. Just have to work it. Come on, just keep going. Keep doing it. And then at a point where you just did so many games or even movies, you'll just say, hey, you know what, this is regular work, and I'm good at it, and I can make a living out of it. I really hope she comes back, because I think she's going to law school or something. But really, we need you. We need you, Courtney. You're amazing in this game. I would love to hear you in other games or even see you in movies or whatever. Don't be a lawyer. You don't need that. Come on. But yeah, like I said, the characters themselves are so likable in this game, lovable even, and the chemistry is just great. But one thing I did not mention in the review, really, I mentioned that this character is in the game. I didn't mention that he's a fantastic villain, and that is Comstock, Zachary Hale Comstock, who is the main villain. He's the Andrew Ryan of this game, but saying that kind of makes him sound like a copycat, and he's not. He is his own character. He's, I think, completely different than Andrew Ryan. He is... you'll hear him and you go, oh man, he's controlling his own like little universe here. Well, his own little world here, and everybody bows down to his command, kind of like Andrew Ryan. But Comstock is such a maniacal villain. He's not a typical one too, because he'll just do things that I'm like, what? Why is he doing that? Oh man, I see why. And he's just such a great villain. I don't even know how to explain it. He's a great villain, and I love the design of that character. I love how you barely see him in the game. You see him once as a character model, and that's it. Well, actually twice, I'm sorry. You see him twice as a character model, and that's it. And you hear more audio logs of him than regular dialogue, and he is amazing. Whenever you hear him, you hear all these audio logs, you hear some of the background story, you hear all the stuff that he says to Booker, he's patronizing him and stuff, and I really love that stuff. I do. I think Zachary Comstock is an amazing villain, and I hope to see more villains like him where you don't get too much of him. You really don't. You see him maybe like 3 times in the game. You hear him a bunch of times in audio logs, and you'll hear him over like maybe some speakers or something, but that's really it. And talking about villains, the secondary villain in the game, Songbird. Some people are pissed about Songbird because when they saw all these trailers, all these gameplay clips, they kept seeing Songbird. And hell, there's a Songbird edition of the game where you can get a statue of Songbird. And you literally see Songbird maybe 4 times in this game. The thing is, those 4 times are so well done it's just, it really is. It's so terrifying whenever you see and you hear Songbird. You can hear that music popping up, you know, whenever he's about to approach. And I love that. It's so terrifying. You're about to make it out of there alive or something, and then boom, Songbird. And he only shows up a few times, but when he does, he is a great presence. He really is. And you get that relationship between Elizabeth and Songbird almost automatically, and you feel that kind of, not chemistry, but you feel that relationship. And it is a great villain too. I mean, Songbird is a great secondary villain, and in a way, he kind of is the big daddy of this universe, except there's only one Songbird, and he's more of a character than Big Daddy. At least Big Daddy's in the first game, not the second game, because you play as a Big Daddy in the second game. So overall, the story here is just phenomenal. All of the audio logs you get give great backstory. Hell, even listening to conversations between a bunch of city folk in Colombia is just great. And the world itself, like I didn't even talk about this in the review, but the world of Colombia, the city itself, is so great. I mean, just looking at all the floating parts of the city just come together so you can move to part using the skylines and all that. It is great. It's so much fun just to explore and to find like little conversations between characters and learn a little bit more about the city. It feels like a living, breathing city, and I gotta give Irrational Games more credit because I never really feel like that in games. I felt like that in Bioshock, I definitely did, and there's some other games I could think of that did feel like that. I felt like Dishonored felt like a real living city, but this really took the cake over a lot of games, even Bioshock 1 and Dishonored. I mean, I thought this was amazing. They did such a well done job of making the city feel real. Even when the freaking city was floating above the clouds, it felt like it was real. Now, really, I don't have much else to talk about. I talked about the story itself for 10 minutes there. I explained what I really love about it. I could talk a little bit more about the gameplay, but to be honest, in the review itself, I talked 8 minutes about the gameplay alone, but I'll talk a little bit more about it. The gameplay, I think, in Bioshock Infinite, some people will consider it kind of boring at times. I will say that I'm on my second playthrough, and there is some slowness in the beginning of the game, but really that is just build up until you meet Elizabeth. And when you meet Elizabeth, all the story elements that I love, all of the amazing vigors that you get, all that stuff just, you know, becomes even more in the game. Like, you get more of that stuff, and that's right when Elizabeth shows up, and you get to see her interactions with people, and you get to see her facial expressions and stuff. That's where the game becomes extremely addicting, and you still have about 13 hours of gameplay after that, because it's only about 1, 2, maybe 3 hours if you're exploring a lot, until you get to Elizabeth. The gunplay itself, many people consider Bioshock 1 to have very repetitive, not really repetitive, but the gunplay was its weakest part, and I kind of agree. I mean, it was actually a lot of fun. It actually had its own distinct feeling whenever you shot something, the way it looked. You can use your plasmids, of course, and that was actually really adds to the gunplay itself, just like this game, except this game has way more stuff that adds to the gameplay, like the skylines and the tears in the environments, and just the environments themselves being more open than Rapture. And I just don't feel that the gunplay here is mediocre or just average or just even good. I think it's great in this game. It's a lot of fun to pick a different weapon here and there, get an RPG, get a machine gun, get a pistol, get a handgun, a hand cannon, whatever you want to get, shotgun. Just switch out every time, use a different vigor, switch it up, use combinations. Just try out your own way of playing. Use the tears in the environment, use skylines, all that stuff. The gunplay itself felt good because you actually felt like you're shooting someone. There was actually feedback. You felt like you're shooting through skin, and I love that, which might sound a little weird, but it did. It felt like you were actually shooting a person. Add the gunplay with the skylines, the tears, and the vigors themselves, and all the different enemies that you can encounter in the game, which I didn't mention, that you can actually fight regular, human beings with guns or bats or whatever that are trying to attack you. But you can also fight like big motorized patriot dudes that are like big robots that look like George Washington or Lincoln, and you have to actually fight them. Or the big handymen, who are actually big dudes with big hands. They're machines, but they have a head, a human head, and they have a heart that's exposed for some reason. I don't know why it's exposed, but if you shoot them in the heart, you can pretty much kill them in 1 or 2 shots. But it's pretty hard because they move around a lot, and you could get shot by a bunch of other dudes. So it's actually really cool that they add a lot more enemies to the game, and you know, it's not even that just that. You actually have some supernatural enemies like the crows, which are these soldiers that use the murder of crows vigor that turns them into crows, and they can actually teleport. The boys of silence, which you don't even see until pretty much the end of the game, but they are so creepy, and it actually adds a little bit of stealth to the game because you actually can maneuver past them and not get them, you know, to notice you and bring in a bunch of hordes of enemies to attack you. You got other ones, like you got the ones that are fire boys that actually throw fire vigors at you. You got the demolition ones, which of course just shoot rocket launchers at you. You got the snipers. You got your typical stuff. You also have like gunships that can fly by and they'll have turrets on them, and you can actually either possess the turrets or you can actually get up there, destroy it, or just shoot it. There are plenty of enemies in this game, and it doesn't just, you know, keep sending you the same ones over and over again. There'll be parts where, you know, handymen you don't fight for the first 5, maybe 6 hours of the game, and then they'll throw you one. Maybe an hour or two later, they'll throw you another one. You only fight like 4 handymen in the game, and it is incredibly fun to kill big dudes, small dudes, medium dudes, all those type of dudes. It's just a fun experience all the way through. Even if the story wasn't that great, I would actually give it a high score just because the gunplay itself was a lot of fun. Now, like I was mentioning before I actually cut myself off, is that the vigors themselves there's 8 of them, but what I really like is that they don't give you all 8 in the beginning of the game, which a lot of games do this, so I can't just give this game the credit like, oh, that was a smart idea. No, a lot of games do this, but you don't get all the vigors until I would say about 7 hours into the game. And some people won't like that because, oh man, I had this vigor for so long. Hell, there's even a story mission where you have to get a vigor, and it takes like 2 hours to finish that story mission just to get another vigor. But I really like it because, you know, at first you'll be kind of bored of the first 3 or 4 vigors that you get, but then you get a new one, you're trying that one out with a combination of other ones that you already have, and then you're like, oh, I'm bored of that one. Oh, a new one, and it keeps going like that until pretty much, you know, a couple hours, well, a few hours before the game ends. But the thing is that the gunplay itself, like I said, the gameplay itself, I keep saying gunplay, but I meant the gameplay. The gameplay itself has so much variety that it's, you know, even though you don't have as many vigors as you might hope and not as many combinations, it's still a lot of fun just to go in there and whoop some ass. So there's no real boring parts of this game. I played this game almost all the way through the first day. When it came out, I played 12 hours straight, and I almost beat it. I had to stop myself because I did not want to beat it all in one day. So I waited until the next day, and then I beat it, and I was like, wow, that was amazing. This was truly an incredible experience. Some people have a problem with some of the graphics and some minor issues with the gameplay, but me, I don't. This is an incredible experience that is as near perfect, or even, I would say, perfect as a game can get. The graphics, especially when you see Columbia in the distance, all the cities, all the buildings, even the people themselves look lively. Just the game looks beautiful. The sound design is amazing. The soundtrack is memorable as all hell. The voice acting, like I kept saying, is amazing, and not just from its 2 leads, but from the guy that voiced Comstock and a couple of other characters that I won't mention because it might be spoilers. But I really loved everything in this game. Every single thing I could think of, I loved in this game. And if I had to think of any nitpicky thing, like if someone held a gun to my head and said, say something they didn't like, I would have to say I didn't like that there's a lot of gameplay from earlier, like a couple years ago. Like there's a whole 15-minute thing, like a 15-minute gameplay section with Booker and Elizabeth, where Elizabeth's like trying to resurrect a horse or something like that. Remember that part? Remember that big piece of gameplay that they showed years ago? Stuff like that's not in the game, and that's kind of sad because I love that scene in that, you know, little clip that they showed. And there's not as many critical decision-making actions in the game, which I thought was kind of lame. But for the most part, I love this game. This is an amazing game, one of the best ever in my opinion, and I wholeheartedly agree with my 10 out of 10 score and many other people's 10 out of 10 scores. This is one of the best games of all time. I don't know what else to say. So I'm not really going to say anything else. I'm just going to say play this game. If you're one of those people that just don't play games that much and you're looking at this game and you're thinking it's too complicated or something, oh, the skyline system, that's probably going to suck for me because it looks like it's hard to control. The tears look like they're too complicated or something. I thought they might be a little complicated, and I found them all easy to control, easy to maneuver. It never gets confusing during the combat because there's so much stuff you could do. Never does. It's so much fun. It's frantic, sure, but it's so easy to control and so easy to like make up different strategies that it really isn't a tough time to play this game. It is an amazing game all the way through. Do not let this game pass you by. Do not skip this game to play Army of Two, the Cartel Devil, whatever the hell it's called, or another Call of Duty game, or hell, don't even skip this by to go play freaking Gears of War, God of War. Get this game. This is incredible, and it's easily my game of the year of 2013 so far. I don't know if anything else could top it though, but this is an amazing experience. Definitely go check it out. That's it. There you go. There's my in-depth review. Now, I want to talk about the ending. So there's going to be major spoilers now. For everybody that did not finish the game, do not, or didn't play it at all, do not listen from this point on, because I will have some major spoilers in the ending section. So please do not listen from this part on. I'll even put it in the description just in case you skip ahead or something like an idiot and you just get something spoiled. Or I'll put it in the description. If you skip ahead and you listen to a part that I spoiled, that's your freaking fault, not mine. So all right, let's get straight into it. We'll wait until 20 minutes. Now, okay. So we're in the spoiler part of the story. I'm going to talk about the ending. And I'm sorry, when I said it was 20 minutes, it's actually 20 minutes for me, not for you. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, now we're into the spoiler section. The ending for Bioshock Infinite is one of the best endings I have ever experienced in a game, because it blew my mind. When the credits rolled, I had to fight tears back, because I was getting a little choked up, because you spent a long time with these characters, a very, very long time, and then it drops a twist on you that, I'm sorry, if you said you saw that coming, if you saw like maybe some of the other minor twists coming, then fine, I could see that. Even I was thinking some of those twists that were, I even thought, that could happen. But if you said you saw the main twist coming, you are a liar. Shut your mouth, because this is one of the best twists, not even in video games, ever of all time. And it was such an intelligent, thoughtful ending. I have to give Ken Levine and the Irrational team kudos, because you made one of the best endings I've ever experienced in anything. Now, let me actually talk about the ending, seeing that I'm actually in the spoiler section. Booker DeWitt finds out that Elizabeth can, she can tear into different universes, and she does this a couple times in the game. And there's a part where, of course, they destroy the siphon, and now she can pretty much see all of the doors leading into a bunch of different dimensions. And the thing is, the stars in the sky are those little lighthouses that go into different dimensions, which if you played the game, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't and you're listening, you have no idea what I'm talking about. You're going like, what the hell? That's insane. But when you play the game, it's actually pretty genius. Let's just say this. Each star in the sky is actually a lighthouse that opens the door to a different universe. There you go. And Elizabeth can open a tear that will let her go to this place. And she starts explaining to Booker that, to stop Comstock, stop Columbia from ever being made, this is what we have to do, blah, blah, blah. And then you find out that a bunch of Elizabeths pop up from different universes and tell Booker that he is actually Comstock. Which I will admit, I guessed that really easily, because, they pretty much gave it to you when you kill Comstock and then your nose started to bleed, because in the game, whenever your nose starts to bleed and you feel a little, like, woozy, that means in a different universe, you died. So he actually gets a nosebleed right when he kills Comstock, and you figure out that you are actually Comstock, and the only way to get rid of Comstock and make sure Columbia never happens, this whole war with the Below and Columbia never happens, is to kill Booker, because Booker will become Comstock. Now, I'm a bit confused at that ending. It's an amazing ending, really is, but I'm a bit confused because they make it seem like there's two different universes where one Booker went and got baptized and became Comstock. He switched his name, became Comstock. That's why he's the prophet and stuff. The Lord and all that bull. They even give you hints in the beginning of the game with some of the audio logs, which I thought was really cool. But and one universe, Booker declines the baptism and he becomes the Booker that we play in the game, of course. Now, I don't get it, because the Booker you're playing as is the one that refused the baptism. So when he gets killed, Elizabeth drowns him in the baptism water, or whatever the hell, the holy water, I don't know. I'm not really a holy man myself, so I don't know what water they use for baptisms. But when she drowns him in the water, I don't get how that kills Comstock. Unless she brought him back to the moment where he gets baptized, and now Booker is actually the Booker from when he got baptized, and that's why when Elizabeth, drowns him, Comstock dies, and all Elizabeth start to disappear, because Elizabeth is revealed to be, of course, Booker's and Comstock's daughter in the game. Anna is the character's name that Booker always repeats over and over again and talks about losing. And well, he actually doesn't talk about that, but he makes it apparent that he lost his daughter Anna at one point, and then you figure out that it was actually Comstock or Booker from the future that stole Anna from him, renamed her Elizabeth, and she grew up in the tower to be Elizabeth, of course. And it's a really great story. It really is, and I love that ending. I just don't really understand the whole Booker's Comstock thing. That's the only part I don't understand. Everything else is great. All the supernatural stuff, all the twists and turns. I might make it sound a little confusing, but explaining the ending is really hard for me to do, especially since I'm not the best at explaining stories. But it is an amazing ending, even with the Comstock thing, me being confused by that. Everything else, all the twists, finding out that Elizabeth is Booker's daughter, just is beautifully done in this game. It doesn't make it just doesn't spell it out for you. Booker doesn't come back and says, "Oh shit, you're my daughter," or something like that. No, they just show you a flashback of this baby getting her pinky cut off, and then you're like, "Oh shit, that's Elizabeth because her pinky's cut off and stuff." And then you quickly realize that no other character goes, "Oh my god, you're his daughter," or blah blah blah. No, nobody does that. They make you figure that out yourself, and it's pretty simple to figure out. You have to be an idiot not to figure it out. But it's so well done. It really is. I love all of the twists in the game, even some of them that I kind of saw coming, like the daughter one. In a way, I kind of saw coming. But it is a truly amazing ending with just a spectacular cast of characters, writing, and all that. And like I said, I'm sorry that the ending discussion's a little bit too jumbled, and I'm going all over the place and making it even more confusing than it already is. But it is a truly amazing ending, and this discussion was really mainly for the people that played the game and just wanted to know my full opinion of it, because in the review I did say the ending blew the mind out of the back of my head, which is true. I'm still trying to pick up all the pieces and put it back in my head. I'm missing some, so that's why I'm stuttering and sounding retarded. But this is a great ending for an amazing story filled with amazing characters, an awe-inspiring world. This is just a phenomenal game, and I didn't mention this, but the first 20 minutes really just sets the bar, because that's when the lighthouse shoots out your rocket. I mean, you're in a rocket, the lighthouse turns out to be a rocket, you get shot out right into Columbia. Hallelujah. And it reminds me so much of the beginning of Bioshock 1, where of course you go into that canister and it shoots you into the ocean and you see Rapture from a distance. It reminds me so much of that. And Irrational Games, you are an amazing studio, one of the best ever. Thank you for an amazing experience. And everybody out there, thank you for listening to this. Thank you so much, and goodbye.
Mr. DeWitt, I think we've got trouble. Catch!
That'll do.
Get the girl! Let me go!
Tear it down. Tear it all down.